Alrighty, hey guys, AnimeWestReacts here, gonna be reacting to Seraph of the End, chapter 145 of Philosopher. So, it says, in a certain region of Greece, there was a village where a blood-sucking immortal supposedly lived. And so, yeah, shows up with a sword, says, speak only the truth. The rumor about the immortal is false, is it not? They say, no, it's true. One of our people had their blood drunk not 1 week. And they take it. It says liars will be killed for causing fear in the populace with baseless rumors. Lord Bathory will not allow it to continue. It says next, you. Is the rumor about the immortal true? And then yeah, we got Farrad in a room, and they say, "What are you reading, my lord?" He says, "Popular stories nowadays." He says, "Stories." This one is the holy legends of a group of tribes. These are Far East sutras. I've also read myths from various lands and several philosophers' essays. They say, that's writing, I can't understand any of it. He says, you can read all this? Barrett says, I was interested. They all say mostly the same thing anyway. And he says, what do you hope to find? He says, mostly why we're alive. And he says, any answers? And then Barrett says, not really. They all say there's no big meaning. Sun rises in the east, and sets in the west after it. Does that, enough we die, the end. Is very true. And he says, but then, doesn't that mean our advance into Greece is ultimately meaningless? He says, And the guy says, oh, this one I know how to read. Says there's no great reason we should live each day to the fullest with gratitude. Or there's no great reason we should live each day to the fullest with gratitude. Barrett says, does that resonate with you, Pompeii? And he says, live for today and give thanks to the gods. That sounds like an excellent way to live to me. And he says, the gods, Doesn't it resonate with you, Lord Bathory? And he says, I don't feel the need to beg someone for permission to live. And then Pompey says, then what are you looking to find? He says, I think a way to vanish completely. And he says, huh? Life's meaningless, right? So having to do it over and over is just exhausting. And then says, Farrad comes out and there's a bunch of, talks to the guy that was killing those people, says, well, you found the liars. And the guy says, about half the people insist the rumor is true, while half admit it was a lie, my lord. And he says, Farrad says, really? Wow, then maybe the immortal does exist. Do you think he's nearby? And he's like, if he is, I'd love to ask him why he's still alive as someone lands beside him. And he's like, huh? And he says, excuse me, where did you just come from? And then he's like, hey, you there. He's like, hey, you there. And he says, would you not mess with my experiments, please? And they say, Lord Rigger Stafford, please save us. The Romans have come to kill us all. And the Farrad's like, would you not ignore me, please? I asked who you are. And then he ignores him and he's like, the Romans, what do they want? And he says, they're asking where the immortal is. And then he says, right. I'm right here, though. And then Farrad's like shocked and says, you, the immortal, really? Let's say we test that then. Executioner, cut him down. And he says, your voice, your hair, your handsome looks, you have potential. I think I'll add you to my Michaela experiment. And so, yeah, the guy slashes at him, but he grabs it with, like, ease, and then, yeah, Barrett yells, Pompey, and he says, my lord. And Pompey moves in front of him, and there's just, yeah, a big old slice. Gust of wind from Rigger's slice. And then, yeah, Pompey is like, gods, what was that? And Barrett's like, well, this is bad. Better retreat. And so, yeah, he says, retreat, everyone fall back. And Pompey's like, Lord Bathory, aren't you retreating? And he says, the retreat needs a decoy to be effective. And then Pompey says, I'll stay behind. Barrett says, men who are grateful for life should live for today. Me, though, I'm more curious about death there. And Pompey says, but my lord, he'll kill you. And then Barrett's like, I'm already dead. From the moment of their birth, everyone starts marching inexorably toward death. And then, yeah, Pompey yells, retreat everyone back to the fort. And then he's like, hello there, death. And then the immortal's like, I'm not death. And he says, then are you a god? He's like, well, whatever you are, you aren't human, so I have a question for you. And he says, what is it? And he says, what's the point to me being alive? And he's like, Rigger's like, philosopher, you're cursed by the need for meaning. And Ferret says, so there is none, or are you saying you don't know? And Rigger says, I know my personal reason for living. There's someone I want to save. And then Ferret's face looks unamused, and he says, really? Someone to save, hmm? Well, isn't that nice? And he's like, I see you're a Philistine then. And he said, yep, everyone is. No matter how long they live, humans are humans. Humans are still humans. Now then. And he takes Fred's head off. He's like, huh? And yeah, he's like, holding Ferret's head, and he says, drink. If you don't, you'll die in moments. Or do you wish for death? That's right. You aren't one of those Philistines who's mindlessly grateful for life. That means you aren't afraid of dying, right? And it says, for the first time in my life, I realized I was afraid of death. My instincts screamed for life, but more than that, an intense need to drink the blood that hit me, I gave in. And he says, the moment I did, I felt something precious in my mind break. I was swallowed by a desire for blood and indescribable joy. And then Burger's like, you can't die anymore, little philosopher. Now you can spend the centuries pondering away. Maybe you'll even realize just how much of a Philistine you are. This is over a century later. We got a bunch of heads. So yeah, this is over a century later. We got a bunch of heads in jars making sounds, going like, let me die, let me die, let me die. And says, Lord Rigger, how long will I be stuck in there? And he says, who just spoke? And he says, Farid. He says, you still remember your name. All my other subjects would have broken by now. He says, I've been like this for a century, and 40 years have passed since I became just the two of us here. I'm the only one who talks to you every day. He's like, oh, wow, you must be counting. He says, well, will there be an end to this? And he says, good question. He says, well, no. This ended long ago, actually. I won't be able to make Michaela using this process. He says, then you failed. He says, it seems so. I'm afraid the meaning for your existence is a failure now, too. Sorry. He says, I wasn't looking for the meaning of my life anyway. And Rigger's like, that's right. You don't want to be a Philistine. And he laughs and says, "Father." And he says, "Will you come back?" And he says, "Yeah, sure, I'll be back before long." And he says, "He never came back. I knew he wouldn't. We'd been abandoned. He had no need for failures after all." And then, yeah, we see him close his eyes, open his eyes, and then closing his eyes, and time just passing until he manages to eventually knock himself off the table and break the glass. He says, "It took me 20 years to break the bottle, and then 50 to regrow my body." And he says, "I'm still alive today. Why?" And he says, "Because I'm a Philistine, maybe." Ooh. And then chapter is ending. Says, "Well then, what say we kick off the final battle? A final one for Philistines." So yeah, pretty good chapter. Hope y'all enjoy this video. If you do, then yeah, leave a like on it, sub the channel, ferret how he became a vampire, what caused him, things of that nature, and yeah, I will see y'all next time. So, see y'all next month.